Yo, what's good everybody? In this video I'm going to show y'all how to make a hard beat for Boston Richey similar to his recent project, Welcome to Bubba Land. And per usual, I'm going to show y'all how I made the beat from scratch. I don't think I got to say too much else, so let's just jump right into it. So as you can tell from the preview, for once I actually made an entire beat in one FLP. So it might look like it's pretty complicated, but the beat's actually super simple. It's just a whole bunch of different layers, but they're all really simple layers put together. It'll make a little more sense as I go through it. For the tempo, I chose 158 beats per minute for this. A lot of the beats that Boston Richey's been using sit around 155 or 160. So the first few sounds that I really focused on were the brass sounds, and I got a few different brass sounds and layered them on together, and each of the patterns are a little bit different. So the first sound I got was the brass section preset from Purity, and I penciled in these super low notes and kept the bass notes insanely simple. So I have this lower one right here and these top notes that hit once every measure. So for this particular beat, I used the key of C sharp minor, hence why the bass notes are C sharp. After the Purity brass sound, I went and got this brass one shot. With this sound, I put it down an octave from that C and tuned it to the key, which is C sharp, and this hits once every 4 measures. So this is one of those sounds that help it develop that darker undertone to it. And to finish all my brass sounds, I grabbed another one shot. And with this, I pretty much copied the same root note and just pasted it once every other measure. And I took these notes and I copied it up 7 half steps to the 5th note in the scale, which is G sharp. And I had these hit once every measure. And I put in this top melody, which is insanely simple. So if I drop it an octave down, you could just see it's the root note and then the 3rd and 2nd note in the scale. And then for the second half, I just switch it around so it goes from the 2nd to the 3rd note in the scale. Once I had that, I just pitched it up an octave and copied it over for the second half of the pattern. And if I put all the brass sounds together, this is what they sound like. So you could probably already hear that putting down all these simple layers has already built a good foundation for making this more powerful or harder beat. So moving on to the next melody sound, I got this children's choir preset from Omnisphere, and this is a pattern I put in with that preset. This might look kind of complicated, but it's super simple. If you look at the middle, it's pretty much just repeating this 1st and 5th note. So if I drop all these C sharps an octave, it's the same structure as the last pattern where I have the root note and the 5th note of the scale, except this is just an octave up. And then once I had that, I just had this descend using the C sharp minor scale. So I started with an octave of G sharp, then moved down to F sharp or the 4th note in the scale, and pretty much just worked my way all the way back down to the root note. And by the time I got here, I dropped the root note an octave. So I took all that and I copied it over. All the notes are the exact same, except I moved the D sharp at the end here back up to F sharp. And once I had the first half, I just selected it like this and then hit Control B to duplicate it for the remaining half. And once I had all the notes in place, I hit Alt R and randomized the velocity. For the choir here, I put down an EQ and I rolled off the lows pretty steeply, and I used these 2 dips here to cut out some of the unwanted frequencies. Now moving on to the background vocal, this is from the Ghostly Choir preset from the Nightmare Bank in Arcade, and I went down to the bottom here, selected C sharp and put it up an octave. As for the actual pattern MIDI, it's pretty straightforward. I just have a main chop for the first half and then another one and a little switch up at the end. And I also made an alternate version of this. It's just the C and the B are switched at the end. For effects on the vocals, I put down some reverb. Pretty sure this is just the default setting, and I just turned up the decay and the wet. And I put down a high shelf EQ on it. And for the final sound of the sample, I put down this bell, which is going to be my upcoming multi-kit, so stay tuned for that. Similar to all the other basic patterns, I just put it down on C sharp. So now moving to the drums, the first couple sounds I put down were my clap, and this is a combination between a clap and a snare, and I put down a basic snare sound. As for the clap, I put it down on the 3rd beat of every measure. As for the snare, majority of the pattern is pretty simple. It just plays counter notes to the clap, and then here at the end, I just put in a roll where I'd occasionally just cut it out or leave it in, depending on which part of the beat I was in. And I made this by going to the 1/3 step snap to grid. So for my next drum sound, I got this hi-hat. I put in a basic 2-step and went in afterwards and threw in all these rolls, which are all using the 1/2 step snap to grid. I tried to get some of that section 8 type of sound with the hi-hats here. His hi-hat game is definitely a lot more sophisticated than mine, but I tried to get the general gist of it with a few rolls that I had. After the hi-hats, I put in my open hat. And with this, I pretty much just layered these down on notes where I thought the 808 was going to hit, or accented it with whatever drum sounds I already had. And then for my last drum sound, I got a spins type of 808. So I have two different 808 patterns. Both of them are relatively simple, but I'll just go one by one. Pretty much like the rest of the melodies in the beat, it's very heavily centered around the root note of C sharp. Here in the 4th measure, I just threw in a little bit of a switch up and moved it up to G sharp, or remember the 5th note in the scale. But overall, just a super straightforward pattern. No fancy rolls, nothing like that. And here's my second 808 pattern, which is just a simplified version of the last pattern. And of course, putting it all together with everything else, this is just about what the final beat sounds like. Alright everybody, so that's going to do it for this one. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for making it this far in the video. Let me know any thoughts, recommendations in the comments, and if you caught it earlier, I'm working on another multi-kit, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll have that done within the next month or two or so. And like I said, that's going to wrap it up for this. Appreciate you tapping in, and I'll see y'all in the next one.